Hello, I'm Tim Terhorst, and today I'm going to be giving my presentation on a strategic analysis of Uber Technologies Incorporated and their mobility as a service technique and how they can improve this for the future. So beginning with industry landscape, so as I mentioned earlier, the MaaS market, the mobility as a service market, is projected to grow to about $1 trillion in 2030. Right now it's about $347 billion in market share, and that is by Statista 2024. The key competitors for Uber are going to be Lyft, Bolt, Didi, DoorDash, and Amazon Logistics. And DoorDash is more so for the Uber Eats side of things for Uber. And some industry traits for Uber: they are very tech-driven, they have some regulatory scrutiny, and they have an ESG focus. Now moving on to strategic forces. Right here I have a visual of Porter's 5 forces. So to help you out with the visual, red being the most serious and green being the least serious in the visual. So looking at the visual, the industry rivalry for Uber is very high. They have threat of substitutes, bargaining power of buyers. That's a little bit higher for them. The threat of new entrees is also there a little bit, but bargaining power of suppliers is not really that bad for Uber. And they have some driving forces too. They have AI, and they have autonomous vehicles they have starting to roll out. They have gig worker classification, so they have some regulations they have to follow. And they have some sustainability pressures that they have to deal with as well. Now, moving on to the executive summary of the paper that I wrote, Uber has shifted from losses to profitability. So they have about $9.86 billion in net income in 2024, which is very good for them. They operate in ride sharing, delivery, and freight. And they have a dual strategy that I'm going to recommend: labor model reform and automation acceleration. So we need to get more autonomous vehicles out on the road, so that could also be good for them. So the financial transformation that I previously mentioned in this last slide, as you see in 2019, Uber was not profitable whatsoever. 2020, not so much. And as you see in 2022, 2023, 2024, that net income has increased, and so has revenue, which is very good for Uber. And they have made a transition from losing money to making money, which is always a nice thing to see. Now, they have some internal strengths that I would like to talk about as well. They have some core competencies such as real-time dispatching and data systems. I worked for Uber. I have over 1,200 Uber rides, and their dispatching system is pretty efficient, and it's pretty great. I can speak from personal experience there. They have a multi-vertical platform scalability, and they have AI-driven optimization as well. And for the SWOT summary, we have our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So some strengths I would like to mention: they have global brand and network effects, market leadership and rideshare delivery, just to mention a couple. And they also have their advanced tech and data infrastructure. Like I said, they're trying to roll out the autonomous vehicles, so they're definitely increasing their tech infrastructure. Some of their weaknesses they have a dependence on the gig economy, which is, just independent contractors taking rides, taking deliveries, doing what they have to do. There's a lot of regulatory controversies, such as the one in New York, where Uber employees are considered actual employees and not, like 1099 contractors. So they have certain rights and regulations that Uber needs to follow. And some opportunities for them, obviously, as I've mentioned before, the autonomous vehicles and the urban mobility partnerships is also a big one. The expansion in emerging markets, so markets that don't really have much Uber going on, more rural areas. Hopefully they can expand into that, and some ESG integration appeal. Now we have some threats. The gig worker regulation that I just talked about, that is going to be an issue for them. Cybersecurity risks and intensifying competition from Lyft and the other previously mentioned companies. So from strategic issue, the gig worker classification poses a 10 to 15% cost increase, and that's mainly because a lot of the gig workers are fighting for minimum wage, which, it's their right to fight for it. So Uber is going to have to pay them their minimum wage, give them a certain amount of hours, and treat them as employees rather than 1099 contractors. And there's also global pressure from the US and European Union, Latin America to reclassify them as normal employees. And it also threatens flexibility and margin in this regard. It's a very I would say it's almost a political issue here, and I'm not really going to get into it, but the fact of the matter is, if the gig worker classification is classified to where they have to, be considered salaried employees, then Uber is going to lose money, and that's just a fact. So some recommendations I have for their dual strategy: we're going to have a tiered labor model, which is something DoorDash has, you have bronze, silver, gold. You do X amount of deliveries, you get promoted to the next tier, you make more money. It's as simple as that. So they're going to invest more in autonomous vehicles, and they're going to partner with cities and, hopefully make Uber some sort of taxi service, hopefully. So hopefully we can have early reform and we can have competitive positioning when it comes to that. Now, to implement the McKinsey 7S framework, we're going to start with strategy. We're going to try to launch a hybrid labor model pilot structure. We're going to create labor and autonomous vehicle strategy units. For systems, we're going to update human resources and autonomous vehicle control systems. For shared values, we're going to reaffirm ethics and sustainability. For style, we're going to have CEO-led town halls and visibility rules, so hopefully the workers can see the CEO has their back. For the staff, we're going to recruit autonomous vehicle / legal talent and partnerships, which basically means they're going to get more lawyers. Skills, manager training on labor and tech, which would be nice. So for a sample of that would be to upgrade some dual worker types and hire, autonomous vehicle and labor law talent, but labor law lawyers for Uber's sake, So I have some competitive positioning tools. On the left side, I have core competence market matrix. On the right side, I have the BCG growth share matrix. So I'm going to start with the core competence market matrix. And for existing markets, we have, the algorithmic rideshare / delivery like Lyft, Uber, DoorDash. The new markets that are emerging, we have micromobility, mass transit being, Uber's trying to get into mass transit and freight more so than just the rideshare. And also other existing markets include labor management and benefits optimization, and including in the new markets, autonomous systems for logistics and urban delivery. So a little bit to unpack there, but essentially Uber is trying to move into the new market of more mass transit, essentially. Looking at the BCG growth share matrix, for the star, we have our mobility, our rideshare, our whole core thing we got going on here. Our question marks, we got Uber Eats, we have autonomous vehicles, and Uber Freight. And Uber Freight's kind of new, so we'll see how that goes. For the dog, we have Postmates and Corner Shop. I've personally never heard of Corner Shop, but I've heard of Postmates. Postmates is very popular. And for some final recommendations, I think that Uber needs to proactively reform their labor practices to make sure they're protected and they're treating their employees fairly, because nobody wants to be mistreated at work. Let's be real here. They need to double down on autonomous vehicle development, and they need to deepen city transit integrations. And in conclusion, Uber does have an opportunity to shape the mobility rideshare future, and strategic leadership now will create a lasting advantage in the future. That is my presentation. Thank you for watching.